Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 4250, the Protect Reporters from Exploitative State Spying Act.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 242, H.R. 4250, a bill to maintain the free flow of information to the public by establishing appropriate limits on the federally compelled disclosure of information obtained as part of engaging in journalism and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from California, Mr. Kiley, and the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Johnson, will each control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and to insert extraneous material on H.R. 4250.
Without objection.
I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I'm presenting bipartisan legislation to protect vital First Amendment freedoms from being infringed and chilled by overreaching government actions. I thank my colleagues across the aisle for their support of this issue. This bill prohibits the federal government from compelling a journalist to disclose documents, communications, or other information obtained or created as part of the journalist's job. Our founders chose to enshrine the freedom of the press in the First Amendment to the Constitution, alongside freedom of speech and other fundamental freedoms, because it is a linchpin of Republican government. It is vital to the functioning of a free and democratic society. As James Madison said, a popular government without popular information or the means of acquiring it is but a prologue to a farce or a tragedy, or perhaps both. A people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power which knowledge affords. Well, the most commonly understood form of potential abuse involves the output of a free press, that is, censorship. It is also critically important to protect the inputs, that is, the work of journalists in reporting on the affairs of the nation. That is, a key aspect of freedom of the press is the pursuit of truth without government entanglements or intimidation. If the government forces journalists to reveal sources or work product, it could undermine the gathering of information that is in the public interest. That's why 32 states and the District of Columbia have expressly protected this right with statutory shield laws, and 49 states have either a statutory or common law privilege that protects journalists from compelled disclosure. These laws allow journalists to do their jobs without fear that the government will unreasonably seize their records. Today's legislation, the Press Act, does the same thing at the federal level. Administrations from both parties have been guilty of unjustly targeting journalists and using compulsory process to obtain information from them and their sources. Now, over the years, versions of this very bill have received widespread support from across the political spectrum, and indeed, this bill passed through the Judiciary Committee on a unanimous bipartisan vote. Mr. Speaker, liberty depends on the freedom of the press, and journalists are often the first to expose government fraud, waste, abuse, and encroachments on personal freedoms. In a free country, we need to make sure that the government cannot unmask journalists' sources without good cause, and that's why the need for this legislation is so strong. This bill provides those protections, and it is long past time for this legislation to be signed into law. I want to close by again thanking my Democrat colleagues for their support, and especially my fellow Judiciary Committee colleague, Mr. Raskin. This bill is proof that it's possible for Congress to set politics aside and act to protect the rights of all Americans. I urge support and reserve the balance of my time.